Let's do this. Hello everyone, my name is Deadman Darkling and welcome to my graveyard. Today, in my coffin, we're going to be having a little conversation, a little talk with the dead. We're going to be discussing growing up as a black alternative goth child in New York City, specifically the Bronx. So, growing up, I was always different. Now, if you would see me in the past and look at me now, of course my style has changed. I grew up in not the best neighborhoods. Then again, I always had friends in not the best neighborhoods too, so I would be there also, and I just felt like something was out of place. Like, no matter where I went, something was different. Now, when I was growing up, my taste in music came from my family members around me, which was mostly hip hop and R&B, such as Biggie, Tupac, Jay-Z, Erykah Badu, Mary J. Blige, Luther Vandross. The list can literally go on and on forever. Everything that you've seen, and you can go to like a black wedding and whatever song that you hear there, I grew up with it. Of course, everyone grew up with it. It's insane. But I still felt like something was missing. Now, I got my love of video games from my uncle, who doesn't like video games at all, actually. He doesn't really play video games now. Then again, he's kind of old, so am I, but that's different. And I loved playing his games whenever he wasn't around. Now, when I was in kindergarten, I remember going to school with my cousins. We were very close back then. We were very family oriented. Now, in kindergarten, I would always be with my cousins. We always hung out. We always played together. I mean, we were in the same class, one big class. So, of course, we would always be together. And then after school, of course, we'd come back to my grandma's house and hang out until my mom got off work. My mom was working a lot back then. And I noticed that my mom also had kind of a darker style, but it wasn't too noticeable. Fast forward to maybe fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, I started listening to a lot more music my mother had around. Of course, she had her mixtapes of DMX and other hip hop artists that I was like, oh, of course. And my mom stopped me and she was like, nah, stop. There's curses in it. You can't listen to that. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But then she also had other mixtapes of people like Nirvana and other old 90s, 80s bands. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I really like it. So that was basically my first introduction into any sort of rock. I noticed the big difference in me when I was in 7th grade. I was a little outcasted, called the weird kid because of the way that I started dressing, a lot darker, mostly black clothing. Now, my clothing was kind of an issue when I was a kid because I had mostly hand-me-down clothes from my uncle. Now, that wasn't really a problem, but it was the style that he is that wasn't me. So even when I wore these clothing, I still felt and looked uncomfortable. It was the big baggy shirts, the fitted hats, the very baggy jeans in different colors, brown, white, a bright navy blue at times. It was a lot. It was too much color for me back then. But I also would find a way to make something darker. I got some inspiration from people around me, from music videos. I wore different styles. Sometimes I'd have like, a brown shirt and maybe I'd have wristbands on the sides, maybe some spikes, whatever I could really find. And I didn't really have any alternative friends. I grew up by myself, alternative and outcasted. So, because of the way I dressed, there was a small issue of people not wanting to talk to me. People always wanted to get angry whenever they looked at me, which I didn't understand. I wasn't bothering them. How am I bothering or disrupting your life? I didn't talk to you. I stayed by myself. I sat in a corner. I played my Game Boy Advance, and I just wanted to be left alone. Then I noticed that there was a lot of talk of fighting. Mostly people trying to fight me for being different. They thought that since I was different, since I dressed this way, that I obviously was a devil worshiper. I was some sort of vampire, hellspawn. I was going to eat them or kill them or put a curse on them or sacrifice them. And all I wanted to do was get through the next day of school. Like, I just wanted to survive day to day. You know, get home, put on my radio, go to my favorite radio station, which is dead now, but it was 92.3 K Rock. It was a great station. It was a great station. I cannot emphasize that enough. It had everything: alternative, emo, aggressive, heavy metal. It was just insane. Now, I will switch classes because of the threats to another class where there was a couple of actually other alternative kids. And of course, they became my friends and we started hanging out a lot more, 7th and 8th grade. But then ninth grade came around and I was put into one of the top 5 worst high schools in the Bronx. And then things took a very bad turn to the point where my mother changed up my style a little bit so that I wouldn't get into any more harm or put into harm's way because of this school. Now, I personally hate wearing shorts. In the 5 years that I've been with my wife, is it 5 or 6? I don't know, she's better with numbers. I've only wore shorts twice. And that's recently after we were married. And I was from our trip to Disneyland. I will probably post a picture of it. Maybe somewhere over there or here, or maybe more. And then maybe one more time after that, which I don't have pictures of. My mother bought me some shorts, collared shirts, and some very high socks. And actually some New Balance sneakers. I don't like wearing sneakers. I love wearing boots. I'm wearing boots right now. I'd rather wear boots than sneakers. I can even run in boots. But ninth grade was pretty hard. I didn't know anybody. Most of my friends from school were spread out differently. And this was early 2000s. We didn't really have smartphones. We didn't have smartphones at all, actually. Or maybe we did. We didn't really have too many ways of communicating. The best way we could communicate was on the phone, like landlines. So I was separated from the alternative people I knew, and of course after school I would go visit them, and we started hanging out more. And my style started to change a lot more because I was starting to feel like myself. I started to get more darker clothing, shirts with prints on them, with skulls on them. Of course, skulls. I was an edgy kid. I was a little edgy baby bat. I had the skulls everywhere. Everything had a skull on it. My rings, my shirts. If I could put them on my boots, I had them on my boots. It was insane. There became a problem of discrimination, exclusion, and religion. I, of course, was discriminated because even though I was black, I wasn't ghetto. I wasn't going around saying the N-word all the time or dressed in a certain way, always having big baggy jackets on. I wasn't always trying to fight with the teacher. They always thought that since I was black, I had to be, belligerent. And I'm not saying that black people are belligerent, but this is what they expected from me in school. I was excluded from a lot of things because I am different. I am dark and alternative. They kept me out of a loop. I was the kid picked last for most sports, but then again, I don't play sports, so I don't care, but I can run. I used to run track in school. So I stayed away from sports. I stayed away from gym class with these people because things were always weird. People always wanted to talk to me and ask me questions. People actually wanted to stay away from me. Like I said before, they thought that I was a Satanist. There's nothing wrong with Satanists. They're not bad. But I wasn't a Satanist. I wasn't a vampire. I wasn't really anything. I was just me. I was Deadman. I just wanted to be left alone most of the time because, I was a baby bat. Going on 10th and 11th grade, they thought, oh my god, you're probably emo. You probably cut yourself. No, my wrists were clean. I never cut myself. I never thought about it. My life might have been pretty bad at times, but I never thought about ending my life or causing myself physical pain. I always thought I just need to survive this day and move on to the next. They thought many times I was going to bring a gun to school. Mind you, we had metal detectors. There was no way to bring a gun into school. Pretty sure people have found ways, but I never found a way. I never hated anyone to kill them. Now, in 9th grade, my school was just starting. So we were the first class of that school ever. But we also was starting with the middle school, so we had 6th graders also. And kids can be cruel. Of course, they saw me with the way I dressed and stuff and thought, oh my god, stay away from him. He's crazy. He might try to hurt you. He might try to fight you. No, none of that. There are many kids that actually looked up to me. It was like, wow, I like the way you dressed. I like the way you are. I like the music you listen to. And I was like, good. You might be different like me. Keep up with it. Listen to the music. Dress the way you want. Do different styles. But then things got extreme in 10th grade, where I actually was able to dye my hair. My mom just finally gave in and said, you know what, fine, you want to dye your hair, let's do it. I didn't think that she'd give in so easily, actually. I've asked her maybe 2 or 3 times. So we started dyeing my hair. Blue. I had blue, green, red, orange. There was a time when my hair was white. Well, not white, blonde, because we bleached it and left it in for a day. I had purple also. That was a great color. But I was still... people still stayed away from me because of it. And it was a little hurtful, but also it was life. Now, of course it affected me. I was a young baby back. I was like, oh no, I have no friends. Oh well. So sad. But my school was inside a bigger school. There were 4 other schools in there, and I went around upstairs, met people, different styles, older people who told me, you look great, you look fine, you're not wrong, these people are wrong. We were real edgy people talking about the world is corrupted and messed up. And I was like, you know what, you're right. You're definitely right, Elder Goth. Screw the world, anarchy. And I started to gain friends. It was awesome. Friends, they were great. And we started to hang out more. During school, after school, weekends, we'd hang out. And it felt great. I was like, finally, people weren't afraid of me. I had people who had the same similar views. And it was nice. And then coming back to school, there were rumors that I was smoking, I was doing drugs, that I was fighting, that I was always doing something, because people didn't like me and wanted me away from them. They wanted me out of the school. There were so many rumors. People thought that on the weekend I would sacrifice children. I was like, that's a little extreme, but okay, whatever. I got through it though. Nothing serious or major ever happened. But what was happening at school wasn't the major issue though. The major issue was outside of school. Different people in different groups in different schools would always come up to me, ask me questions, threaten me, want to fight me. And for what? Same thing when I was younger, because I'm different, because I look different, because of what I am into, because of my style. It's not harming them, so why is it an issue? Because they can't understand it, because they're not opening their minds to understand. Now, I started to hang out with those people after school and introduce them to my other friends who were a little different that I had in, younger grades, 7th, 8th grade. And we all were cool. We all hung out all the time. We met new people. We went out to other places. There was a library we went to on Fordham Plaza, Fordham Library. If you're in New York City and you're from the Bronx, you know that library. And you know that there's a little part up there where kids would always skate. People still skate there. I had a bunch of skateboard friends too. They were cool. And it was a great time. It was a great hangout spot. Around the time that I was in 11th grade, I finally started using Facebook. I went a couple of, I don't know, maybe a year or two without using Facebook ever because I didn't really have a computer or a phone. But what I did have was a PSP. I used my PSP for me to talk to my friends from school. But I started to branch out. I saw other alternative people in different schools, and of course I was like, you know what, these guys are pretty cool, let's hang out. And then I met my best friend, the Magic Cat Darkling. I saw her, and my first thought was, I really like to edit pictures. Hey you, can I edit your face? It was hard to believe that she was a black female goth. I didn't grow up around that. I didn't really have any black alternative friends. Most of them were of different races, Hispanic, white. None of them were black. So of course she was like, okay, that's fine. And we began talking. We had a friendship going along. We even met. The first time we met up at Central Park out in the open because, you know, she thought, oh God, what if this guy's crazy? What if he tries to kill me? And I was like, you are correct. That is the right thing to do. And since then, we've been best friends. It was weird growing up because I didn't really have many positive role models who really supported me. A lot of my family members didn't want to speak to me, told other family members to stay away from me. Like, I even had family members saying that I was the devil because they were heavily religious. Told them I can't see other family members, I need to stay away. Stay away from Deadman because he's weird. You know, who knows what kind of stuff is going on. They judged my mom, and my mom was like, I don't care. He's my son. I listen to the same music he does. I don't dress as extreme as him. So what's the difference? I was like, yeah. I got my style from my mother. She introduced me to a lot of things. And my sisters surprisingly supported me. They are very openly supportive women. They're great sisters. And it was hard at first because I didn't think I had any reinforcement. I didn't think I have any people giving me positivity. I had very close-minded family members, but my immediate family, they were so open and positive. They helped me through it, and not a lot of people have that. Not a lot of people growing up as alternative black goths or anything different don't have a lot of positivity. And I'm telling you now, I support you. We have a growing alternative black goth community growing now. We're supporting each other a lot more than ever before, and it's just going to keep going. Even my favorite thing is black cosplayers, but there's always some sort of hate towards them because they're not white, they're not Asian for the characters they're playing. That's too damn bad. We can cosplay, we can do what we want. And being a black goth comes with its challenges. People saying, oh, isn't goth only for white people? No, it's not. There's always my favorite thing of, you wear a lot of black, but sometimes you have different colors. You're not goth. The fuck, yes I am. We even have goths who wear all white. We have white goths, fairy goths. We even have cyber goths. Cyber goths, their style is so freaking awesome. We have metalheads. There's so many different goths and so many different things. Pastel goths, look at them. Look at pastel goths. Look at the way that they dress and their style. They're still darkly inclined, even if they're not wearing all black. As a goth community, we should always support each other. I don't always go over the top and have contacts in or have my wristlets in, but I do dress a certain dark way. I can't always be completely over the top because of my job. You know, my job, it's hard being that way, because when we travel, I have to represent my job, my workplace, so I can't dress the way that I want to dress. When I had to go overseas, I had to dress a certain way. I'll show a picture of that too, where I had to look completely different just so that I don't cause a negative outlook on my company. But I don't think that dressing the way that I dress is a negative look. Some people stare at me still to this day. In 2019, they still stare at me and they ask, why do you do that? You need to grow up. Why do you dress that way? Because this is who the fuck I am. This is exactly who I am and how I dress. And in those days, the only place we had to go to was Hot Topic, where they used to sell trips. Everything was trips. Those jeans, the clothing. Now it's mostly merchandise, but you know what? I'm not hating on them because I love Funko Pops. I have a lot of them. I have a lot of my favorite characters. And they still have some band tees. And of course, they figured that the question, one of my favorite questions, I love this question, is, oh my god, you're goth. That must mean you're into like choking and slapping and BDSM and all that sadism, masochism stuff. No, not all goths are. I mean, I am. But that's personal. But not all goths are. Some goths don't even like pain. Now, the point of my video is growing up in New York City as a black goth, as alternative. It was tough. It wasn't the best. We didn't have a lot of support. There's more now. There are a lot more black goths now, black alternatives, and you can see it, you can tell. You could sit down on the bus, listen to music or a train, and you'll just get a look. You'll look at each other and you'll just nod and be happy. You have no idea how many times I've gotten on the bus and people stare at me in shock and horror, but you have that one person in the back or the one person in the middle staring at you, look at you, smile and nod, and it's like, thank you for the support. And I support you too, so thanks so much. It can really change your day. Be positive. Even if everyone else around you is negative, be positive. Because it's hard as it is to be of a different race. And being of a different race and a different genre of music, of style, it could be worse. I don't really know much more to say. But I hope that this video gave you an insight into my mind and Deadman and my past experiences.